It's 2023 and people are more confused about nutrition than ever. It's almost like we know too much, and what we think we know is always changing. Vegan versus carnivore, saturated fat versus anti-nutrients, fasting versus protein-rich breakfast. It's all confusing as and I know you've got big questions because I see them constantly popping up in my comment section and DMs. And while I would love to answer every single one individually, I thought it's best we start with some of the heavy hitters. So today I'm going to be answering some of the top weight loss related search queries on Google to help you cut through the noise. Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. In today's video, we'll be taking a deep dive into the most Googled questions about dieting and weight loss. And you can pause the screen or look at the description to check out my disclaimer. We will be specifically covering weight loss related content today, so please feel free to skip this video if it's not supportive to your journey. And guys, if you're not already subscribed, help a girl out here, hit that subscribe button and follow me over on TikTok and Instagram at Abby's Kitchen. Alrighty, let's jump in with question number 1. Is fasting better than dieting? In short, no. If we assume that fasting is specifically for weight loss purposes, then it is, by definition, a diet.
Oh my God.
Both scenarios may result in weight loss because of a calorie deficit. They just kind of restrict calories at different times in the day or in different ways. The only way that fasting will result in weight loss is if it contributes to a calorie deficit. And if it does, research suggests that you can achieve weight loss at more or less the same rate as a calorie restricted diet that doesn't limit your eating window. In fact, one study comparing fasting and continuous calorie restriction found that both groups had the same caloric deficit and no difference in weight loss. So even though technically there's no caloric or food restriction built into fasting, and you can theoretically eat whatever or however much you want, it usually results in a calorie deficit because we're just not great at making up for calories lost when we skip meals. Now, I know a lot of proponents of fasting claim that it's better for fat loss as it may help to use up some fat stores for energy, especially when paired with exercise. However, research shows that there really isn't a difference in weight loss between fasted and non-fasted exercise. In other words, regardless of what time of day you choose to exercise and the amount of food in the tank or not in the tank, the amount of calories expended is ultimately equal. Bottom line, weight loss comes down to a calorie deficit, not the amount of fat that's burned. So whether you're contemplating weight loss from fasting or from another form of dieting, it should be a choice that is sustainable for you in the long term. All right, question number 2. Can weight loss affect your period? In certain cases, absolutely. The female reproductive system is very sensitive to energy imbalances. So when we lose too much weight too quickly, or we don't eat enough calories for what our body needs, or we over-exercise, it can potentially disrupt our reproductive hormones. Basically, what's happening is that we put ourselves into a chronic state of low energy availability. So there's just not enough energy available to allocate to other bodily functions, which can put a hamper on our reproductive hormones and increase the risk of menstrual dysfunction. We also know that body fat is essential for the production of estrogen. So when our body fat percentage drops too low, our bodies stop producing enough estrogen to support menstruation. That said, a very high body fat percentage can also implicate estrogen levels and negatively impact menstruation. So when it comes to weight loss specifically, we really want to be mindful of not losing too much weight too quickly and making sure that we're eating enough calories to support not only our general nutrition and energy needs, but also our reproductive function as well. Moving on to question number 3. Is it pointless to exercise without dieting? Abso-freaking-lutely not. Now, I assume this question is in the context of weight loss, and the query is whether exercise does anything to help you lose weight if you're not also restricting your food. In other words, can you out-exercise a high-calorie diet and still lose weight? And if that's the question, the answer is yes, technically, but unless you're Michael Phelps, it's unlikely.
I'm tired, I'm gonna just go to sleep right here. See you later, America.
We know that weight loss comes down to a calorie deficit. So theoretically, yes, if you're burning a ton of calories working out, then it could create a great enough calorie deficit to result in weight loss. But we also know in real life, exercise isn't that effective for weight loss. Our caloric intake is made up 100% of the food we eat. But physical activity only makes up about 10 to 30% of our caloric expenditure. And only a small subset of that is our intentional exercise. Our body also has a ton of compensatory mechanisms in place to conserve energy and maintain energy balance. So for example, we tend to eat more after exercise, and we tend to unconsciously move less doing basic acts of living. All that said, is it pointless to exercise without dieting?
No, God!
Exercise has a myriad of benefits that are way more significant than weight loss. It can improve mood, energy levels, cognition, sleep quality, regularity, bone health, and even blood markers like cholesterol and blood pressure. So we really need to rebrand exercise for health, not as something we do to change our weight. All right, question number 4, does sleeping help you lose weight? It might, albeit indirectly. So getting enough quality sleep is essential for regulating our hunger and fullness hormones, which is why poor sleep is often associated with increase in appetite, cravings, and food intake. In fact, one review found that folks who were sleep deprived ate an additional 385 calories a day. We even have some evidence that the reward centers in the brain are more stimulated when we're sleep deprived, which prompts us to lean towards more high-calorie foods. Not to mention, poor sleep can increase our stress hormone cortisol, which has also been associated with weight retention and increased appetite. And we can't forget the role of sleep on exercise. The more rested you are, the more energized you will be to put the most into your workouts. I don't know about you guys, but doing a boot camp class is the last thing I want to do when I've underslept. So in short, while sleep may not help you directly lose weight per se, at least not without a calorie deficit, not getting enough sleep may sabotage your goals by dysregulating your appetite, eating habits, and exercise regimen. Question number 5. Do carbs make you gain weight? Ooh, this is a good one. But the short answer is no. No, they do not. I know that diet culture loves to hate on carbs and make them like public enemy number 1, but carbs can not only support your weight loss goals, but also optimize your nutrition. For one, we get carbs from almost every food group except for meat and oils, so this includes fruit, veggies, legumes, whole grains, and dairy. And obviously, there's a ton of variability here in terms of how many carbs a certain food might contain, but if we completely cut out carbs, we're also eliminating a ton of really nutritious food options, which can feel really restrictive and unsustainable for most people. It's also worth noting that fiber largely comes from carb-based foods. And fiber not only supports our gut health, but also helps us feel fuller for longer, which can help to support weight loss and weight maintenance. So again, when we cut out carbs, we're also limiting our fiber intake and its associated gut health and satiety benefits. A lot of people experience immediate weight loss when they go low carb because of the initial drop in water weight when you deplete your glycogen stores. But water weight isn't fat.
What?
And when we look at the data comparing low carb diets to low fat diets, we don't see any major weight loss differences. In other words, weight loss comes down to what is the most sustainable and enjoyable way for you to create a calorie deficit. So if you love your carbs too, my top weight loss tip here is to dress up any naked carbs by adding a source of protein, fat, and fiber, and aiming for more high fiber carbs whenever possible. So for example, if you love pasta, maybe try to mix in some chicken, a generous portion of veggies, and some cheese for fat and flavor. So yes, you can have your cake and eat it too. And question number 6, Can I lose weight without dieting? So this is a tricky one to answer because it comes down to your definition of dieting. I am assuming dieting in this context means calorie or food restriction, and we really can't change the law of thermodynamics. Ultimately, if you want to lose weight, you need to create a calorie deficit. Some way, somehow. Usually, this means a diet is at least part of the equation. The challenge most folks run into is that constantly focusing on what you need to remove from your diet can put you into a scarcity mentality, which often results in a restrict, binge, repent, repeat cycle. It's really hard to maintain a way of eating when you're constantly obsessing over what you can't have. And this is why I really prefer to shift the focus away from denial and restriction and more towards an additive approach to eating well. I actually have a whole video on sustainable weight loss tips, which you can watch right here. So if you want the full in-depth breakdown, I highly recommend checking it out. But in short, I like to think about what you can add to your meals and snacks to make them both satiating and satisfying to take you from scarcity mentality to a world of abundance. This is where my hunger crushing combo comes into play. By adding a source of fiber, protein, and healthy fats to meals and snacks, all of which are inherently very satiating, we naturally start to edge out some of the less satiating, less nutritious foods. We basically get more nutrition for our calorie buck. And because our mindset is in a place of abundance, not scarcity, and we're allowing ourselves foods that we actually love, we no longer feel the need to rebel and overeat. It turns your crash weight loss diet into a lifestyle that you can actually sustain long term. Remember, folks, losing weight is a marathon, not a sprint. And despite what diet culture would tell us, we actually want it to be slow and steady to increase the likelihood of keeping that weight off. Everyone's weight loss journeys are going to be unique, and I'm sure all of your questions related to weight loss are unique as well. So if you have access, please speak to a registered dietitian about your needs rather than relying on Google for advice. And on that note, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please give it the thumbs up, help me out here, leave a comment below to let me know what you guys would like me to talk about next. What are your big burning questions? Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!